Welcome to the first pre-recorded class session. Like I mentioned before, we are going to be doing this as opposed to meeting on WebEx from now on. So this will give you a little bit of flexibility with it where you don't have to necessarily meet at the time of class. I will be posting these videos on the day that you would be in class or you would have been meeting on WebEx. But then you can, just view these whenever you are available to do that. And then on Thursdays, I will post a quiz that will cover all the material that we've covered in class that entire week. So just one quiz for the whole week. That with your discussion is going to go together, and that's going to make one of your attendance days for the week. So for this week, we only have one video. It's just this one. Thursday is going to be in-class peer review, so we will be not learning any new material that day. We'll just be applying it. So if you're in class on Thursday, then you will be completing peer review that day, as well as on the discussion board, and everybody else will just be doing it on the discussion board. For the next paper, the in-class peer review is on Tuesday, so everybody gets a chance to do it both ways. And then for the actual research essay, everybody gets to do it in class and online. But that's something that's a while from now. But let's look at what we are going to be learning today. We're going to be talking about writing paragraphs and going over how to do peer review. So those were the pages you should have read in your book for this. So announcements, please do your discussion post. Remember that is part of your attendance. So for this week, you are going to complete peer review online. So by Wednesday the 9th, you should post your peer review draft. It should be a complete draft, so all 3 pages plus your works cited page. All of that should be posted, and then there are some criteria on there, some questions to answer, and you're supposed to answer those questions about at least 3 other students using the information and the questions that I gave you, and you should complete that by Saturday because your final draft is due on Sunday. So that will, if you go ahead and get it done before Saturday, that will give all the people you comment on a chance to incorporate your feedback into their paper before they turn in their final draft. Remember, again, we are not holding WebEx meetings anymore for now. We're going to try this out and see how this works. These videos are going to be shorter than what a WebEx class would be, and you can see up close the slides that I'm using as opposed to having a weird angle from my phone, because my phone is the only piece of technology I can get to function properly to do the WebEx. So this hopefully will be a little bit easier to understand. All right, so first we're going to start with writing paragraphs. So basically what we're looking at is, what do paragraphs do? You're separating ideas into logical, manageable chunks. So that means you don't want to open up a paper and see one huge chunk of writing without any breaks in it. I know if I look at that, it just hurts my eyes to think about having to read, all of that. So when you look at a paper and it's just one big, huge chunk of writing, it's kind of confusing and it's kind of daunting to look at. So what you're going to do is you're going to break it up into logical, manageable chunks where you're focusing each paragraph on one main idea. So you're going to present coherent sentences to support that one point. So you can kind of think of each paragraph, especially when you're talking about body paragraphs, as a mini essay within itself, where it's got an intro sentence, the body, and then a conclusion. Paragraphs should stand on their own because all the sentences support the same point. So each paragraph should have one main point. If you find yourself talking about some other part of another point you're trying to make, then you should be using that to create another body paragraph. So make sure that you're breaking up each idea into its own paragraph. So each supporting paragraph adds another related main idea to support the writer's thesis, which is then developed with facts, examples, and other details that explain it, helping the writer build a strong case for their thesis. So every body paragraph is working to serve that thesis. It's going back and it's referring back to your main argument, and it's giving an example or some sort of support that proves your argument. Thoughtful organization and development of each body paragraph leads to an effectively focused, developed, and coherent essay. Again, as we mentioned in class last week, coherent means that it knows what's going on. So it makes sense and you can follow the thread of the logic there. Think of each paragraph as a mini essay. So it's got, like I said, a little bit of its own thesis and topic, and we'll talk about that in a second. So what are the pieces that make up an effective paragraph? We have our lovely little paragraph here, and then you're going to start with your topic sentence, then you have all your supporting sentences, and then your concluding sentence, which again, much like an essay, if you could say an effective essay, it would be topic paragraph, or a thesis paragraph, intro paragraph, your supporting paragraphs, and then your concluding paragraph. All works together, doesn't it? Topic sentences. So think about this: a topic plus a comment, judgment, or interpretation on your subject. So every topic sentence should tell me what the topic of that paragraph is and how you are going to use that particular topic to feed into your argument. So usually the first or second, but really should be the first sentence in the paragraph. Your topic sentence should be the first one. I should be able to know by your first sentence what that paragraph is going to be about. The book uses examples of, you can have it in the middle or at the end, or it be implied, but those are really for other types of writing. So for this type of writing, when you're persuading and you're explaining things, then your topic sentence should be your first sentence in the paragraph. Expresses the paragraph's main idea and makes it easier for readers to follow the essay and for writers to stay on topic. I'm having trouble staying on topic right now because one of my dogs is laying in the floor in front of me and will not stop grooming himself, and it's very distracting. So effective topic sentences. You provide an accurate indication of what will follow in the rest of the paragraph. So a weak example here is, first, we need a better way to educate students. Okay, well, that's not great. We know it's we're starting with the first point here, but instead of just saying, "Ooh, we need a better way," which is very vague, you need to give me some sort of specific topic that you're going to be covering. So a stronger example is, creating a national set of standards for math and English education will improve student learning in many states. So that way we know exactly what type of learning that these students they're looking to improve, and how they can actually improve that, instead of just saying a better way. Tell me what the better way is. Are the most general, they're usually the most general sentence in the paragraph, and thus does not, wait, hold on, let me read this again. Are the most general sentence in the paragraph, and thus does not include supporting details. So you're not going to give me examples. You're not going to give me facts and statistics and support in your topic sentence. You're giving me the most general idea of the topic that you are going to be covering. So a weak example: salaries should be capped in baseball for many reasons, most importantly so we don't allow the same team to win year after year. So that is a weak example in the sense that we're giving examples here. So salary should be capped in baseball for many reasons. Bam, there you go. That's a topic sentence. You don't have to go on and start telling me that what are the reasons for that logic. That's not supposed to be part of your topic sentence. That's going to be part of your supporting sentence. So introducing a salary cap would improve the game of baseball for many reasons. There we go. And then your supporting sentences in your paragraph are going to work to support and give me reasons why the salary cap is important. Effective topic sentences are also easy and clear to follow. For example, in general, writing an essay, thesis, or other academic or non-academic document is considerably easier and of much higher quality if you first construct an outline, of which there are many different types. Okay, what? So you can see how that's kind of hard to follow there. First of all, they use the word you. Don't do this. No yous in there. But we've got all these and, ors, and buts and everything in here where it's, let me give you every single example of every single thing that you could think of that would fall under the category of writing, and it's just too much. And so if you get to the end of your sentence and you forget how it started, then your sentence is too long and it's too confusing, and you need to go back and revise that. So a stronger example is, most forms of writing, instead of listing all the forms of writing, just say most forms of writing can be improved by first creating an outline. There you go. It's very easy to understand, and it gives you the same information that that first one did without just droning on like you may feel like I'm doing right now. Okay. So are these good or bad topic sentences? Exercising 3 times a week is healthy. I mean, that's kind of okay, but I really need a why here as far as how is that going to relate back to your argument. I don't know what the overall argument in this essay is going to be. And each topic sentence should have some sort of reference back to that thesis and tell me how it is supporting the argument of the essay. Sexism and racism exist in today's workplace. That's kind of, again, when we're talking about a thesis statement, making an argument, and this is something that's more of just a straight up fact. So what does that have to do with the argument? Give me some more information more than just a fact. What are you proving by saying this? I think we should raise the legal driving age. So I think, and we, of course, no, thank you. Just say we should raise the legal driving age. But we still need a because here. Think of, again, we have that claim because reason format for our thesis statements. Think of your topic sentences that way too. So this is, what is this argument? What is the overall argument of the essay? We're not really sure how is this related to it. So make sure that you give a because in here too. Owning a business. This is an example from the book, so I don't know where they thought that they were going with this, but that's not a complete sentence. So that, first of all, is not going to work as a topic sentence because it's not a sentence. So no thank you on that one. There are too many dogs on the public beach. All right, so we got an argument here. So that kind of gives you where this particular argument is going to go. And you can tell that the rest of this paragraph they're going to be talking about, okay, what should be done about it? Why is it an issue? Like, we know what the topic of it's going to be. All right, so supporting and body sentences. So after we get our topic sentence, we got our supporting and our body sentences. So follows the topic sentence and helps explain, prove, or enhance the topic sentence. It may develop by using examples, description, narration, comparison and contrast, definition, cause and effect, classification, and division. So these are all different ways that you can build your argument and you can support the mini argument that you're making in your topic sentence about your major argument, which is your thesis statement. So in informative or persuasive writing, a supporting sentence usually presents a reason. So the refusal of the baby boom generation to retire is contributing to the current lack of available jobs. So we got a reason here that is obviously supporting a topic sentence about why there's a lack of available jobs. It may present a fact. Many families now rely on older relatives to support them financially. So again, we're still talking about the same thing. We're still talking about the baby boom generation, older adults, that kind of thing, and looking at jobs. To make this more specific, as opposed to saying, making it a fact, saying many families, you could turn it into a statistic, give me a specific number. So in this case, nearly 10% of adults are currently unemployed in the United States. All right, so like I said, usually if somebody puts math in something, I'm going to believe it because I'm not so great at math. And if you give me a number, I'm like, oh, well, these people have done their research, and I am going to be more likely to think about their argument in a way that makes it more believable. Do a quotation. So you could have a paraphrase or you could have an actual quote from one of your sources. We will not allow this situation to continue, stated Senator Johns. So now we know that when you think, oh, this is an elected official, that maybe they know about what's going on and they're people who can do something about it. So giving you this quote here kind of gives you more credence to your article or to your argument. Or give an example. So last year, Bill was asked to retire at the age of 55, which is super early to retire. So that is like a specific example that you can give. So depending on what source you're using and where you're getting your information from, that is where what of these different types of examples that you're going to be using in your support. Then you have your concluding sentence. So please just don't chop off the end of the sentence or just give me an example at the end or a fact at the end or something. Make sure that you're summing up what you are saying in that topic paragraph and you're relating it back to your thesis. So you're reminding me, okay, these are the things that I'm saying. These are the examples, the facts, the statistics, all of that kind of stuff that I'm going to use. So this is what I've got, and this is how it relates. This is how it helps prove my thesis statement. And y'all can't see this, but even though I'm not in class, I'm still waving my hands around and still talking with my hands, which is kind of driving me crazy. So it is a summary of the comment, judgment, or interpretation of your topic. So you're going back and you're telling me what you just told me. So it should be the last sentence in the paragraph. It's the conclusion, comes at the end. Reminds the reader of the main point by restating it in different words. So when we talk about intros and conclusions, we'll talk about how in your conclusion you're going to restate your thesis in different words. In this case, you're going to restate your topic sentence, but in different words. Don't just copy and paste it because that looks weird and it reads weird. But you're going to kind of say the same thing, restate it, but you're going to restate it in a different way. It draws together all the ideas raised in your paragraph. Avoids introducing any new ideas into a concluding sentence. Because a conclusion is intended to provide the reader with a sense of completion. So I have that issue sometimes where people they'll start talking about their next idea, or they'll just introduce an entirely new idea in the concluding sentence. That's not where that's for. If you've got a new idea, start a new paragraph, do a new topic sentence, new support, new conclusion. Same with the conclusion in your paper. You shouldn't be introducing new ideas in the conclusion of your paper. You've already told us what you're going to tell us. If you have another point to make another body paragraph and put it up there. The concluding sentence says the conclusion of your paper is for telling us what you've already told us and summing it back up and reiterating your argument and relating all your support to your argument. That's what your concluding sentence should be doing too. So it may restate the main idea. So an example here, childhood obesity is a growing problem in the United States. So that's obviously what that paragraph was about, and I'm sure that they were giving facts and statistics about how it is a growing problem. Summarize the key points of the paragraph. So an example of that, a lack of healthy choices, poor parenting, and addiction to video games are among the many factors contributing to childhood obesity. So now we know what examples they used, even without having the whole paragraph there. I know what examples and what other facts or statistics were about in the supporting sentences of this paragraph. Draw a conclusion based on the information in the paragraph. So these statistics indicate that unless we take action, again, don't say we, childhood obesity rates will continue to rise. So that way, that's working together with all the support that you've used, that you've put in there, and you've developed a conclusion that relates back to, I'm sure, the overall argument of that paper, which is talking about how you can reduce childhood obesity rates. You can make a prediction, suggestion, or recommendation about the information in the paragraph. So based on this research, more than 60% of children in the United States will be morbidly obese by the year 2030 unless we take evasive action. Again, who's the we? I don't know. Are we talking about Americans? Are we talking about doctors? I don't know who this paper's for. But don't say we. Because it's, you're making assumptions about your audience and you're saying we. Well, why do I have to do anything? So in this case, it's making a prediction here, and it's saying, like, look, if this doesn't change, then this is what's going to happen. So you can use your facts and your statistics and examples and everything in your supporting sentences to come together and make a prediction about what the future holds. And making that prediction can sometimes be very convincing as far as your argument, where you say, look, these are the things that are happening now. Look, if we don't do something about it, then this is what's going to happen in the future. Offer an additional observation about the controlling idea. Remember, that's the important part, about the controlling idea. Now, when you listen, you say additional observation, you think, oh, that's a new idea. No. Additional observation about the idea of the paragraph. You're not introducing something new, you're just adding another observation about the same idea. So childhood obesity is an entirely preventable tragedy. So there we go. We're still talking about the same subject, but we're still talking about, we've got an additional observation about it. So when we talk about restating the topic sentence, you reiterate your topic sentence, but in different words. So for example, in this one, there are many advantages to owning a hybrid car. So now this is your topic sentence. We know at the beginning of this paragraph that you're going to be talking about owning a hybrid car, and you're going to be listing advantages. You're going to be telling me why it's good to own a hybrid car. So your concluding sentence could be, given the low running cost and environmental benefits of owning a hybrid car, it is likely that many more people will follow Alex's example in the near future. I don't know who Alex is. I'm assuming Alex happened somewhere in between these two sentences. But you're giving a prediction here. So in this case, you can tell that this particular paragraph had examples, and we were talking about Alex and he or she and how his or her car was working out very well for them, you know, whatever. And now we've got a prediction about it, like, look, you know, it's worked out for this person. Let's see where it goes for other people. So we have that concluding sentence that gives you the same, tells you that there's advantages, just like the topic sentence said, but it just tells it to you in a different way. So how long should a paragraph be? I get this question a lot. So you should develop the idea, point, or impression completely enough to satisfy the writer and the readers. So your paragraph should be long enough to cover the topic or the argument that you're presenting in your topic sentence. So that's up to you. You have to figure out how long it's going to take for you to completely cover that idea. When you look at a series of short paragraphs in academic essays, it can seem kind of choppy and unfocused, whereas super long paragraphs can tire readers. If I look at one page and it's all one paragraph on one page, I'm like, okay, we got to figure out a way to break this up. But little short 1 or 2 sentence paragraphs, that's something you see in a narrative story with dialogue and that kind of stuff. But when you're thinking about academic writing, you should have at least probably 5 sentences in every paragraph, including your topic sentence. Give me at least 2 or 3 supporting sentences and then your concluding sentence. In most college assignments, successfully developed paragraphs usually contain around 100 to 250 words and span 1/4 to 2/3 of a typed page. Now, if you look at it another way, 250 words is usually about the length of a double-spaced page. So look at it less in the word count and more of the 1/4 to 2/3 of a typed page. So, you know, think of it in that way. Look at it how it's laid out on the page rather than how many words are in there. Writers must provide enough supporting sentences within paragraphs to develop the topic sentence and simultaneously carry forward the essay's main ideas. So you've got to have enough support in there that I believe your topic sentence, that I agree with your topic sentence, and that it is fully covered to everyone's satisfaction as far as you've made the point that you're trying to make, that you've put forth in your topic sentence. Paragraph length still. If a paragraph is over a page long, consider providing a paragraph break for readers. Look for a logical place to divide the break, then revise the opening/topic sentence of the second paragraph to maintain coherence. So sometimes you get a topic or an argument and it's going to take you a good while to make it. So it's going to need a page or 2 to create that argument. Think about how the support that you are presenting for it, how you could break that up. So say, for example, you've got a bunch of facts that you want to use. Okay, maybe put that together in one paragraph, and then the next paragraph be statistics. Or if you've got a bunch of facts or statistics, and then you've got an example, maybe make the example a separate paragraph where you start out, for example, and then you start giving me your example there. So that way it's not a whole lot of information about one topic crammed into one paragraph that expands, several pages. So think about where's a logical way, like if you're shifting tactics a little bit, then maybe you should change paragraphs that way. So a series of short paragraphs can be confusing and choppy, so examine the content, and sometimes if you've got several short paragraphs, look and see if either that idea needs to be expanded further, or if you've got paragraphs you can combine, and you can put just one topic sentence and then use all that support from both of those paragraphs, or all 3, or how many ever, and put it together that way. When dialogue is used, begin a new paragraph each time the speaker changes. Now, this is not the same as giving a quote from your source. It's not dialogue in that sense. Now, if you were quoting from an interview, or if you interview someone about your topic, then in that case, if you're quoting word for word, the back and forth between you and the interviewee, then you would use it like dialogue. And so you would have little short pieces there. Begin a new paragraph to indicate the shift in subject, tone, or time and place. So if you're telling the history of something, sometimes you can break that up as well to, if we move on to another major milestone or something in a particular historical event that you're looking at. So here's some examples from the book. So we got a topic sentence. This is actually just one, this is an actual paragraph we have here. So topic sentence, there are numerous advantages to owning a hybrid car. So we already saw this topic sentence. So the first supporting sentence, we get a statistic. First, they get 20% to 35% more miles to the gallon than a fuel-efficient and gas-powered vehicle. Okay, so we got a statistic. Then we got a fact. Second, they produce very few emissions during low-speed city driving. So that's a fairly generalized fact. You could say they produce such and such, 25% fewer emissions or something like that to make it more a statistic, or you can present it just like a fact. So now we got a reason why there's an advantage to owning them. Because they do not require gas, hybrid cars reduce dependency on fossil fuels, which helps lower prices at the pump. Then we've got an example. Here's Alex. We found Alex. Alex bought a hybrid car 2 years ago and has been extremely impressed with its performance. All right. It's the cheapest car I've ever had, she said. The running costs are far lower than previous gas-powered vehicles I've owned. All right, so we've got an example. We got Alex, she's female, so she bought a car, and she is really impressed with it. And then we actually have a quote from her saying, it's the cheapest car I've ever had. So you can use those quotes from there. And this is including a little bit of analysis. When you're thinking about using your support and you're using quotes, you want to have analysis in there. You don't just want to throw a quote in there and just drop it in there and not do any of your own analysis. So in this case, this is a little bit of analysis like, hey, look, bought it a couple years ago. It's really impressed with it. And then you've got an example, an actual quotation that shows how she is impressed with it. And then our concluding sentence we saw before, given the low running cost and environmental benefits of owning a hybrid car, it is likely that many more people will follow in Alex's example in the near future. So that's an example of building the entire paragraph. This is one where I wanted to point out, this is the example that was in the book for where the topic sentence was. So obviously this one's at the front. After reading the new TV Guide this week, TV Guide used to be a magazine that came out, and I don't think it does anymore. I wondered why we are still being bombarded with reality shows, a plague that continues to darken our airwaves. Now again, no we's, I don't know who's the we here. Don't need to have the I wondered. But you can just say, viewers are still being bombarded with reality TV shows, and then this person goes on to explain why they don't like reality shows. They use first person in here, which don't do that. And then I just want to look at their concluding sentence. We've had enough reality television to last us a lifetime. So that's kind of restating that topic sentence. We've got the same sentiment there, but it's presented in different words. Again, the we've, the us. Also, when it comes to exclamation points, you have to have a very convincing argument for me to use exclamation points in academic writing. So for the most part, try to avoid those. All right, paragraph coherence. So a strong paragraph holds together well, flowing seamlessly from the topic sentence into the supporting sentences and onto the concluding sentence. To help organize a paragraph and ensure that ideas logically connect to one another, writers use a combination of elements. So a clear organizational pattern. So we talked a little bit about organization the other day. Chronological, so you're thinking about in time and space pretty much. And spatial, how I'm not necessarily going to use that as much. That's more how things are laid out or how they look. Order of importance, that's one that you're really probably going to be using. It could be general to specific. Helps build your argument a little bit, where you're talking really general to something that's very specific. Like the example about the hybrid car, where it's talking about kind of general facts and stuff about it, but then we get a specific example of one person and their car. Or specific to general. So using transitional words and phrases. So these are the connectors. These are the things that are going to help you flow from one paragraph to another. And then repetition of ideas. This is where you're repeating your argument more than once throughout the paper, and that you're reiterating, you're referring back to it in your topic sentences and in your concluding sentences. This element helps to keep the parts of the paragraph together by maintaining focus on the main idea. So this element reinforces both paragraph coherence and unity. So here are some examples, and if you want to go to the book, pages 40 through 43, there's a whole chart with a whole bunch of different transitional words that you can use. Please use these when you're writing, so we kind of are following what you're saying. So talking about a sequence, showing position, showing a conclusion, continuing a line of thought or changing a line of thought, showing importance. You can introduce your final thought. Usually I get a lot of in conclusion, which is fine. Introducing examples, clarifying an order, so the first, second, third, that kind of thing. All-purpose transitions, where it's you can kind of use it for a lot of different purposes. So certainly, granted, generally speaking, of course. Be careful with stuff like of course, because that assumes that everybody who's reading this is going to agree with you and feels the same way you do about something, which may not always be the case, especially if you're talking about argumentative writing. So here are the key takeaways, which are in your book, which you should have already read, so I won't read to you, but it is telling you what we have just covered in the last, I don't know how many minutes, because there's no timer on this thing. All right, let's discuss peer review a little bit. This is what you're going to be doing on the discussion board as well as in class. So what is the purpose of revising and editing? So peer review is working towards revising and editing your paper. You should not be turning in your first draft of any essay to me. Your peer review, you should have at least read back over that and made any corrections you think you might need, especially when you're turning in your final draft. That should not be your first draft. I should not be seeing the first draft of anybody's essay. You've got to go back and you've got to revise and edit. A lot of times people think revising and editing are the same thing. They are not. And we will go into this a little bit deeper later on in class, but for right now, I'm just going to go over it just really quickly. So when you talk about revising something, you're looking at the bigger picture. So you're looking at your ideas. You're looking at the overall ideas that you're giving to your reader. So you might be, this is talking about moving whole paragraphs, changing wording as far as like your thesis statement, making it helping your paragraphs serve your thesis statement better. You're making your ideas clearer. You're making it more accurate, more interesting, more convincing, but it's usually, like I said, adding, cutting, moving. Whole paragraphs are big chunks of information. Versus editing, you're looking at the smaller details. This is where you're looking at spelling and grammar and things like that. So you're looking at how you express your ideas versus the overall ideas. So this is where you're changing words and looking at grammar, punctuation, sentence structure, that kind of thing. And a lot of times what I have issues with students in peer review is a lot of times they focus more on the editing stuff than the revising. When you're doing peer review, you need to be helping the person whose paper you're looking at revise. It's pretty easy to go back and check spelling and grammar and that kind of stuff. And I count off less for that than I do if your overall organization ideas are out of whack. So if if I can't find a thesis statement, I'm going to count off way more for that than I would if you misspell a word. So that's why you should be focusing more on this revising, looking at the big picture of stuff than just looking at these little tiny details, because that's something that's fairly easy to go over and check on your own. So the purpose of peer review is to give constructive criticism. Sometimes people think, oh, it's just where I point out where you suck. And that's not what peer review is about. So what you're doing there is it's used to help you revise your draft. So it's looking at the overall ideas and organization of the paper. That's the first thing you really should be looking at. It's not just to criticize. It's not just to look out for mistakes. Sometimes we get focused on, let me point out every mistake this person's made. You should be pointing out things that are confusing and that kind of stuff, but you're not there to just put as much red ink on someone's paper as you possibly can. Remember, you're being constructive. When you talk about constructive criticism, that is criticism and comments that are building them up and helping them. So it's helping them in the most constructive way to revise their paper, to make it better, to build it up. You don't just say great draft and move along either. I get that, where people will just kind of glance over and go, yeah, this looks good, I don't know, whatever. And then they hand it off, and then I get papers that have simple mistakes that peer review should have caught if you've actually answered the questions that I'm giving you. And again, not just looking at grammar and spelling, you're really focusing on revising those main ideas, making sure that you understand what's being said. Sometimes it comes down to grammar and spelling that can be distracting to a point where you start to not understand what someone's saying, but really you're focusing, it should be all feeding back to those main ideas in the organization of the paper. So when you complete peer review, these are some of the questions that I give you that you should be answering for this person for each paper that you look at. So this is in class, and this is on the discussion board, and these questions are on the discussion board too. So questions for peer review. Can I easily identify and locate the thesis? It should be at the end of the intro paragraph. So it should be that last sentence in the paragraph. For this first essay, your topic essay, you're going to be looking at, are they giving you the research question they're trying to answer eventually? What is done well in this essay? So point out the things that are good. You know, I really like this point. I feel like you made a very strong case for this particular point. I think this is very interesting, that kind of thing. But then also point out what's not clear. So what do you think needs improvement? You know, are there a lot of run-on sentences where you lose track of what someone's saying? Is the organization kind of weird where you can't, things aren't flowing from one thing to another, so you lose track of what, you know, the person's trying to argue, that kind of thing. So point out the things that are not clear or maybe need improvement. Also look at the assignment requirements. So make sure, you know, there are questions on that assignment sheet that everyone should be answering in their papers. Has that person answered all those questions? Is everything formatted correctly? That's something that's less important than whether or not they've answered all the questions, but making sure that is it long enough? Are there places, if it's not long enough, that they could expand? If it's too long, maybe is there some stuff that they could cut that doesn't really serve the purpose of the paper? So think about the assignment requirements and how that they fit with those. Does every outside source have an in-text citation and an entry on the works cited page? So you should have learned this in 1101. I know that I constantly talk about it in 1101, but anytime that you are quoting or paraphrasing from outside information, and remember in this first essay you have one source that you're supposed to, or an artifact that feeds into your topic, that you should have some information about. So you should be paraphrasing or what they're saying in there, or possibly directly quoting from it. Make sure you have an in-text citation or a parenthetical citation after it, so I know where it came from right after the quote or the paraphrase, and then that is also going to be on your works cited page. So like I said, for this first one, you should only have one entry on your works cited page, but you should, anytime it's mentioned and you refer to it in your paper, there should be a parenthetical or an in-text citation right afterwards. Does the paper have an academic tone or voice? Think about if it's written like someone, you know, is just emailing their friend, then maybe that's not exactly academic. This one will use first person because you are talking about why you're interested in a topic and how you chose it and that kind of stuff. So that's something that's a little bit different for this first one, but it's not going to be the case going forward. You're not going to have first person in there. So, you know, maybe but just look and see if the voice or the tone of it is academic. What editing mistakes do you see? So do you see spelling errors? Do you see grammar errors? And think of it as, you know, oh, I noticed that you keep doing this one thing. You don't have to point out every single spelling mistake that you make, but, oh, I see you have an issue with capital letters, like you're not capitalizing things you should be capitalizing. Things like that. You can just write that sort of thing. You don't have to go through and circle every missing capital letter and things like that. So, you know, if you see a problem that I see a lot of times in first year writing is run-on sentences and incomplete sentences. So, you know, looking at, is it actually, you know, is it a phrase or is it a sentence? So making sure that there's a complete idea in each sentence, that kind of thing. So if you notice those things, just point them out. Like I said, you don't have to mark every single one of them, but just make sure that you're pointing it out. And then once you get your papers back, using your feedback effectively. So look for patterns and recommendations, repeated comments. So those could be issues you should look out for when writing drafts in the future, something that you can correct now. If several people have looked at your paper and they're all saying the same thing, then maybe that's something that even if you don't see it as an issue, it may be an issue. but you don't have to incorporate every recommendation into your paper because this is your paper. Ultimately, it's your paper. So you don't have to do anything to it. You could just turn it directly in and not revise it at all. I would not suggest that, but you could do that. Because ultimately, it's up to you to decide what you put in there, what you take out, what you change, because it's your grade. It's not anybody else's grade. So whatever you feel will benefit your work. And if you have questions about it, if you get a comment or multiple comments on the same thing and you're like, I don't get this, or I don't understand, should I really do this? Ask me, email me. I will help you. I will tell you, because I mean, I'm the one that's grading your paper, so I can tell you if I can look at it and go, yes, this is going to hurt your grade, or you could make this change if you want to, but you don't necessarily have to. It's kind of, it's up to you in that sense. So, if you're confused or you're not sure, just ask me. I'm not going to pre-grade your paper. I'm not going to say, oh, well, this is a B paper, this is a C paper, but I can point out, okay, it does look like you have issues with this. This is done well, that kind of thing, and kind of point out things that that could need changing or that you're doing well in there. Determine if the feedback supports the purpose of the assignment and if the suggested revisions are appropriate to the audience. So think about that when you are looking at the suggestions that people give you. Okay, so the assignments for the rest of the week. Make sure that you post your peer review draft on the discussion board and to the D2L Dropbox. Remember, you got to put it in both places because one is for the discussion and one is for me. Especially the one that goes on in the D2L Dropbox is the main one that I look at for your writing process grade, which is 25% of your overall grade. So remember that. Make sure that you're working with this peer review because it's a big chunk of your grade. So you do that by Wednesday the 9th, and then comment on at least 3 other students' work by Saturday the 12th. For those of you completing peer review in class on Thursday, please print a copy of your paper to bring to class. So you should have already turned it in the night before. This is Thursday. You should have turned it in by Wednesday, again, the 9th. But print out a copy of that and bring it with you to class because that's what we're going to work on in class on Thursday. Remember your final draft, and we keep talking about this peer review, but remember this is feeding toward the final draft. Your final draft of this essay is due next Sunday, the 13th by 11:59. Everything's 11:59 because once it's 12 o'clock, it's the next day. So just remember that you need to look at the peer review, look at the comments that you're getting, ask me any questions that you have. Because after that final draft, the one that's graded, that's 10% of your grade, is due on Sunday. And remember, I don't take late work, so make sure that you turn it in sooner than necessarily, don't wait till the last minute because the Wi-Fi will do something weird, and you'll have to drive really fast to Taco Bell or something and use their Wi-Fi. So make sure you're prepared. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. If you have any questions about what we've gone over today in this video, feel free to email me, call me, ask me if you've got any of those questions. The quiz for this is really just covering this information. I'll post it by Thursday. It will have a link back to this video, and it will be timed, but it'll only have a few questions, and they're all going to be multiple choice and that kind of stuff. So it should not take you very long. If you've watched this video, it's going to be covering major main ideas. So it should be fairly easy if you've watched this video. So if you have any questions about any of this, please let me know, and I hope everyone is having a good Labor Day.